for joining me again for another book review. I so appreciate your presence. I appreciate your likes, your comments, and I am happy to have some new subscribers. So, hello to all those new subscribers and all those new viewers. I appreciate your presence immensely. So let's go ahead and get into this week's book review. And it is called The Lying Club by Annie Ward. And here is the cover of that book. I like the coloring. And I don't know if that was glass or what, but it gives an extra oomph to it. And I love the pump, the shoe that they have on there. Really cute. So let's go into this goodness. This is a story where a woman named Natalie finds herself caught up in some suburban drama. Okay, Natalie moved to Colorado to help her brother recover from a physical injury and obtained employment at a high school. She is somewhat an outcast to a degree because she was not on the level of the upper crust students, faculty, and parents. She was hired for an office assistant position, and she had a front row view of the entitlement and shenanigans that were happening with the families and faculty of this school. Natalie may have been all good if she had kept to herself. Collect the check, do the job. But she didn't. Natalie had eyes for the hot coach, just like all the other women in town. Little did she know, Coach Nicholas, wasn't who people thought he was. Natalie thought she caught the catch of the town when she and Nick began to rendezvous. However, the shine turned to sand after a short time. Nick was shadier than an evergreen tree, okay? This is a whodunit and why story. There are so many people that had a motive to harm Nick. As this story unfolds, there are many twists and turns that will keep you guessing. Natalie, however, is the primary suspect due to her recent relationship with Nick and her questionable behaviors. You will have to read the book to find out what deplorable things Nick has been up to. You will have to find out if Natalie takes the fall or escapes prosecution. I will let you read the book to find out what the charges may be. This book leaves you with a cliffhanger. So I hope there is book 2 in the future because I want to know how the rest of this plays out. I enjoyed the pace of the book. It was hills and valleys that took you on a ride all the way to the end. It will keep you wondering how everything is going to play out. The author did a great job of giving sufficient descriptions of how the events took place, okay? So there are some triggers within the story that I will forewarn you about, okay? There is indecent acts with minors. There is drug usage. There is mental health issues, violation of personal boundaries, and a physical violence described in this book. Now, the level of what the wealthy think they can get away with is also disturbing. The information isn't too gory, but the level of description will give your imagination a clear picture. Okay, so it's not gonna have you wondering. I mean, it's gonna give you the information in due time. Okay, so just read the book, and it will all become clear to you as to the shenanigans this community has been up to. Did like how the police excerpts were sandwiched into the story. You learn before midway what the crime is, which for some reason struck me as odd. I don't know why though, but it did struck me as odd. I was like, oh wow, we finding this out already. But I mean, in a mystery, I mean, you usually know what the crime is, and then the book is basically revealing the what, when, where, and how, and who. So I'm not real sure why it struck me as odd, but it did for some reason. I still haven't figured out why it struck me as odd, but it did. However, keep reading because everything unfolds and it is wonderfully executed. So this book is all about finding out how the crime kind of unfolds, who did what, when, where, and why. So there's not a whole bunch else I can tell you because I'm not going to give away the book. There are no spoilers up in here, okay? You have to go read the book to find out what happens. I'm just giving you a little nugget so that it will pique your interest to go and actually pick up the book and read it. So that's all I'm going to give you. It is a mystery book. And there is a crime that has been committed, more than one crime that has been committed, and the book is going to tell you all about who did it, why, and how all of that unfolds. So if you are interested, go pick it up and find out, because that's all the details you're going to get. I can't tell you much more, as I'm going to give it away, and I don't want to give it away. Okay? So, there are no discussion questions provided, but here are some topics I think would be good to cover. The topic of teenage athletic competitiveness and the effects it has on the child and the family. The topic of how trusting are you of other adults with your child. Underage drinking and drug usage and how it affects the child's present and future. The relationship dynamic between parents and teenagers. Misusage of prescription drugs and mental health. How far would you go to protect the image of your child? What would you do realistically if your child was harmed by someone you trusted? I'm sure if you read the book, you may come up with other topics. So read the book and hopefully you will have some great discussion. I did listen to the audiobook version of this book and I enjoyed the flavor. Okay. I think there could have been a bit more dramatic flair in some parts. I think a couple of the characters could have been a little bit more snooty, which would have added a little something to the story. I would have liked a bit of humor thrown in since the story wasn't projecting like this gory fear vibe. Some humor or even like sarcastic humor for these snooty, well-to-do people, I think could have gave it a little bit of more oomph. Again, as I've said before, a narrator can make or break the feel of a story, but overall it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. It was a good read. And so a little bit of sidebar. I first learned of this author because my library had a meet and greet with Miss Ward, and I did attend. I don't believe I had read any of her material before now. This is not her first book, so look her up. I think she's written a previous book you may want to check out as well. I will say, Miss Ward is so down to earth and funny. I mean, she had us cracking up. I was entertained by her explanation to the questions during the meet and greet, and I felt like there was a conversation between old friends happening. I mean, that's kind of the vibe of the room, at least in my opinion. It kind of felt like I was having a kiki moment with a homegirl, you know. Um, and she was very approachable, very nice. So I was surprised to learn that Miss Ward is a Kansas native and puts a little bit of Kansas in her books. And while reading this book, I actually caught a few. So I was like, oh, it's in there. I learned that this is not her first publication and that she is currently working on the next juicy story. I did get the inside scoop of what that is going to be about, but I am not going to give that away. You are just going to have to be out on the lookout or catch her on the current book tour and possibly find out what that next book is going to be about. But I'm here for it. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that next book. The way Miss Ward interacted with us, those that attended, I suggested she put her humor into the stories. And this was before I even read the book, because I had just started reading the book the day of the meet and greet. Okay. So I knew about the meet and greet a little bit beforehand, and I had checked out the audiobook version of this book. However, I had to finish another book before I could start this one. So I didn't even actually start this one until the morning of the meet and greet. So when I say that I suggested that she put her humor into the stories, take into account that I had not actually read the story yet. And so I suggested that, she put her humor into the story, even if it was like sarcastic kind of humor. I found her funny. I found her delightfully funny. So I was like, even if it's a mystery, I think a little bit of comedy or sarcasm or, that I even like a little bit of dark gray humor. So, I mean, throw it in there. I will be adding to this video a little clip from that meet and greet and a picture of us after she signed my book. And yes, I told y'all I was on a mission to collect pictures and signed books from authors. So this has been a great addition to my growing collection. I will forewarn you, the video quality of the meet and greet is not that great. One, I need new equipment. Two, I had my granddaughter assisting me, and she did her best for antsy 8-year-old. Like, we tried, okay? I think I'll get better over time, okay, people? But I will give credit to the Shawnee County Library for facilitating the meet and greet. And thank you to the host, Miranda Erickson. I believe that's how you pronounce it. She was the host. And obviously to the author, Miss Ward, for a great meet and greet experience. I thought this book was entertaining. I give this book a 8.5 out of 10. As I said before, it could have had just a little bit more dramatic flair in some areas. It could have had a little bit of humor. Make the characters just a little bit more snooty. But overall, good read. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the flow of the book. I enjoyed how it played out. Just those little things that could have made it perhaps a little bit better. If you've read the book, comment your thoughts. I'd like to know what you think. If you haven't read the book, pick it up. And don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, share. I appreciate all of the support. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So until next time, keep turning the pages, my book lovers.
I loved it, and as someone who had not read suspense or thrillers for a long time, this is the book that brought me back to suspense. So I put it up here as one of my favorites because after reading Beautiful Bad, I found myself once again addicted to page turners, twisty books, as we like to call them, or what the bleep books. And then, what just happened? WTF. That's right. And the author we have with us today is a master of creating these twisty suspense. So it's of course one of my favorites. And the bio right here. This was her third novel, her second suspense novel. I have not yet read your first novel, although I plan to. I don't know. Anybody read Annie's first novel? They might after today, though. Maybe we'll have to chat about it a little bit.
It's called The Making of June. It was published in 2001 and was out of print by 2002.
So for the authors among us too, remember that most successful authors have a story like that.
Oh my gosh, that one is a story.
That's right, yes. So, but Beautiful Bad, when it came on the scene, ended up published in 17 foreign territories, nominated for Best Debut Mystery Novel at Strand Magazine Critics in 2019, optioned for a film. This would make a great movie. And basically ended up being a great breakout novel for Annie Ward. She followed up with The Lion Club this year in March, which is the new one. How many of you have already read it? Okay. So
Currently reading.
Okay, no giant spoilers. Okay. And a little bio here. Annie's BA in English Lit with an emphasis in creative writing is from UCLA, and she has an MFA in screenwriting from the American Film Institute. We'll talk about that a little too. Screenwriting led to writing novels. She sold her first short screenplay while she was studying for that MFA, and it was a Grand Jury Award winner at the Aspen Film Festival and a Sundance Festival official selection. So a woman of many talents here. And fortunately for us, at some point, Annie Ward read Gone Girl and loved it and decided that she could write suspense novels too.
Decided I would try.
And obviously, I decided that I can do that.
It's so easy.
It was more like, this is so great, and I wish I could do something like this for readers, and so she tackled the challenge and did it.
Okay.
So I guess can also, by proxy, thank Gone Girl for my suspense book addiction, even though I haven't read it. I will someday. So we are thankful that she was pulled into the suspense world with Gone Girl. And let's go ahead and give Annie Ward a round of applause.
Thank you for having me.
We're so glad you're here. And actually, the first question I have on here is perfect to segue from that. We talked just now, this is your second psychological thriller. You said Gone Girl provided some of the inspiration. Will you continue to write in this genre?
So, definitely yes, but not completely this genre. This was not necessarily the genre that I envisioned being my career. When I was growing up in Overland Park, Kansas, I liked poetry and short stories, and when I went to university, I was really interested in classics and women's literature. And my first book, The Making of June, is women's literature. It's literary fiction. So when I got pulled into the suspense world and I signed with HarperCollins and Harper, they had this idea that they really wanted me to be a suspense writer. So I went into that publishing situation with a 2-book deal, and that meant that no matter what I wanted, my next book was going to be a suspense thriller. So, but the thing is, like you, now that I'm into it, I absolutely love it. And I'm really starting to do some of my favorite books, and you can find there's just so much quality there. I mean, they're not all airport literature, like there's some excellent books, really well written. yeah, I think I'm going to get some space around here.
We're just getting started.
So basically, you don't hear yet, I will, but I also want to try yeah, I don't mind it. I'm hoping that I still have a few books.
Do any of you read like genre crossers as well? So suspense with romantic elements or
very
paranormal.
Very
There is a great example of that.
Too.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see some of that from you too as
And
you go
I'm
through the play.
hoping, yeah, I mean, I'm already at work on my next novel. But I'm sure that's going to maybe be a question towards the end.
Yes, we'll save that one for
Yeah.
what we look forward to. Okay. This intrigued me. This is something Amy sent me. You said you tend to write what you know, and your previous book, Beautiful Bad, started out as a memoir.
Yes.
Before you fictionalized it.
Which terrifies people who read it.
You're like, are you okay?
Yeah, okay, so that was actually the first question that I got from my agent. Like, I sent this book to my agent. My agent was in New York. I now have a different agent, but I sent it to my agent, and you know, when you're dealing with your agent, you usually expect like a text or an email. And later that day, I literally got a phone call, you know, like, hello, it's done. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Do I need to like go on a plane? So the memoir was very different from the book that ended up being published. So I wrote a story that was very close to my heart, which was a love story. In my mind, it was a love story about falling in love with a British soldier who was suffering from PTSD. And that actually happened. I'm married to him, and he's still alive, and I'm still alive, and he's like at the soccer field in Kansas City right now. Like everything was fine, but it was kind of a difficult story to write because you know, someone who has PTSD is not a cakewalk, and so there were issues that we had to overcome because we were really committed to staying married. But it's not like you know, there were hard times. So I wrote this memoir, I sent it to my agent, and he said, I just, you know, people want fairy tale endings. The fact that you guys are still working on things doesn't bode well. I think someone might think one of you's going to kill the other one. Like, maybe we need to take another look at it. Possibly fictionalize it. And at that time, this was probably about, I want to say 8 years ago. At that point in time, I was not prepared to take my memoir and fictionalize it. It just wasn't what I had in mind for this project.
Yeah, it's the story of your heart.
Yeah, so I sat on that for a couple of years, and then I read Untitled, and I was like, all I have to do is just take this story and frame it with this certain crime and have certain people kill other certain people and throw in a lot of like obsession and sex and betrayal and lies. And I think maybe then my agent will like it. This is the most heartbreaking thing about this story, is that this agent, who we now know is oh, Susie, hi. There's somebody back there too. Here's right there. I won't keep this story too long, but it is interesting to know that like I started my agent, I rewrote it for my agent, and then when I sent him the rewrite, he's like, well, I've decided that I'm not into this like unreliable narrator, like slasher stuff. This whole thing is getting out of control, and I think that you should probably find someone who would champion this book. And I think he was like busy in upstate New York, and he paid a lot of money on like another book, but I'm not gonna mention. He didn't need a commission for my book. He was extremely happy, and he was like, I just think you should find someone else. And I did find someone else. I found an agent in London, Natalie Milburn, and she's the one who then took this book to the next level. So he was actually right. He wasn't probably going to do the best job for me on something that, you know, his heart wasn't behind, and I found someone whose heart was behind it. So, you know, it's that old cliche saying that, like, you know, one door closes and the other one opens. I was very depressed, and I went to bed. I would have probably gone to bed for like 2 days instead of like kids. I probably would just like going to hours.
Nice how they can pull us accountable. Compartmentalize, right? Yes. And I bet you were, especially after working it from his advice.
Yeah, but it was the right advice to fictionalize professionalize it, I think. I mean, there are still some people that prefer the memoir. And one of these days, maybe I'll just professionalize it, get that original version, but for the time being, it's just on my computer.
Ooh, who would read the story behind the story if they published like even an abbreviated version of this memoir? Yeah, I would too. That's an interesting idea.
I don't know if it's really been done. Like, I mean, I haven't heard about it.
Oh, well, that's even better, right? Yeah, I'm breaking new ground. I'm liking this. I might tell you about this, Carrie. Right? Exclusive at launch, right? Actually, here too, you said you lived in Eastern Europe for 5 years, right? What do you know? There is a lot of your personal experience in beautiful land. Can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Eastern Europe and how that informed your writing?
Yes. So we all know that there's two camps. So, if you're a writer, or you're a teacher, or you're a student, there's going to be some teachers that are going to say, write what you know, that's the best thing to do. And there's going to be other people that are like, throw that out the window, come on, write whatever you want. Why should you be constrained by writing whatever you can come up with in your imagination? And thank goodness for that, because otherwise we wouldn't have Game of Thrones, right? I mean, that's awesome, right? Like, I don't think Adam George R. R. Martin, lived that life and wrote about it. But for me, it has turned out that even when I've tried to write what I don't know, I always come back to writing about my own experiences. It's just like, I mean, if I were going to write a story about doing this event, how could I ever describe this beautiful room or the courtyard without having been here? So I tend to go places and try to spend time there to make it seem really real. So I do write what I know. My first book, The Making of June, was based on getting married very, very young. Well, I don't know what even. I was 21 when I got married. It's not that young. But I got married young and we moved to Eastern Europe and we ended up getting separated there. So it was a story of an American couple living in Eastern Europe and going their separate ways with a lot of mafia elements, because there's like the Russian mafia operates in Bulgaria. Bulgaria is very similar to Ukraine in a lot of ways. So I wrote that about what I knew, and then Beautiful Back started off as a memoir, and I said, okay, so I do know this relationship that I've been in, but now I have to change it. So, I mean, I don't really know a lot about killing people. I can't say that that's something that I've done. But I think that if you start with what you know, and then you use your imagination, and you do research, and like I really do love true crime. I mean, that is definitely a guilty pleasure of mine. So you combine a little bit of what you know with the things that you come up with, and then moving on to the Lion Club. The Lion Club is basically has 3 major elements in it, which is high school athletes, coaches, and soccer moms, and a big murder, and like a bunch of jealousy. And I started my soccer career right here in Blue Valley, and then when I went to UCLA, I played for 2 years at UCLA, and then I coached at an East Coast private school for 4 years. And now I have 12 or 13-year-olds that play soccer. So I've basically played all the roles that are mentioned in the book, except for I don't think I'm like the kind of bad soccer mom that are